Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my video, welcome if you are new. It's a Saturday and I thought we could start a new reading vlog where I basically tell you what I'm reading in a week, how many pages I'm reading, what books I get read. I'm going to start it on a Saturday so that I have the weekend, next weekend to edit it and get it out. I have a relatively busy week as I always do. Actually today is completely free. Tomorrow I have a family afternoon and then I have a work party for a client on Monday and I'm pretty sure I have a theatre at some point next week. For reference, for any of you who do not know, I work in marketing for theatre, so my midweeks I'm usually at the theatre at least one night of the week. It is currently 8:30. I've been sat in bed for, I would say, about half an hour reading my book. I'm currently on Warstorm by Victoria Aveyard, which is the fourth book in the Red Queen series. I'm currently on page 205. I started the day on page 150. So I've read about 55 pages this morning in bed. This series for me took a little while to get into. The first two books were 4 stars. The last book was like 5 stars. This book I'm loving. I think when it started to get into the more sort of war element of the story, I enjoyed it a lot more, which is interesting because in ACOTAR, when I got to the war bit, I switched off. So it's fascinating that to me, this is like the other way around. But the gist of the story is there are Reds who are powerless people and there are Silvers who have magical abilities. In the beginning of the book, you follow a young woman called Mare. She's basically living in the slums. She is a Red, or believed to be a Red, and she is surviving by stealing stuff. It's basically the same plot as another particular famous book, but these came first. So anyway, so she is stealing to kind of keep her and her family alive. In this world, you get like conscripted into the army when you're like, I think it's 18 or 16. So to try and avoid it, you have to have like a full-time job. She gets a job at the palace as like a maid type person, and then they discover that she has magical abilities. And in order to try and hide the fact that why does a Red child have quite a strong like lightning ability, they marry her off to the prince, and then it all goes from there. And this is now the fourth book. This is now the fourth book. All I'm going to say is a group of characters are banding together to overthrow the throne, and that's all I'm going to say. And they are basically like going around collecting allies and collecting armies as the people in charge are trying to stop them. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, when this story really got going, I loved it. So this is the fourth book. This is, strictly speaking, I believe, the final book of the plot. And then there's like a fifth, like 4.5 book, but I don't really know what that one's about. But I believe this is the sort of ending of the primary story. So yeah, I read about 55 pages this morning while I was in bed. Absolutely loving it. I think the first book is multiple POV, as far as I'm aware, but this is like, I think you're following about 6 different POVs, give or take. So yeah, I am really, really enjoying it. I cannot wait to continue reading it. So I've come downstairs to make another cup of tea because I have drunk my first one. I put some oil in my hair just to like sit for the next couple of hours, and then I'll go have a nice shower and shower it all out. I'm wearing my little pajamas. These are from Sainsbury's. I love Sainsbury's pajamas. So let's go make a cup of tea, let's go curl up on the sofa and keep reading my book. And that's the primary plan for today. It's been a little while. Yeah, I made some decent progress in this book. I'm currently on page 445. So considering I started the day on 150, that's like 300 pages. I It's so easy to read. I feel like the first book, and maybe even the second one to a degree, I was so tired when I read those books. I just kept like phasing out, and I don't think it was the book, I think it was me, because the third and fourth one, I am devouring so quickly. I love them, and I can't exactly tell you what's going on in this book because it will ruin the plot of the first three, but there's been some battles, there's some places won, some places lost. I feel like a lot has happened in 300 pages. This book is paced very well, but there is a lot to wrap up in this much of the series. I finished the book. I mean, it's currently pouring with rain outside. The main overhead light is on because it is so dark. It is 2 o'clock and it's basically like winter, which actually is making it like a really good, cozy reading kind of day. But yeah, I finished this book today. I started on page 150. It ended on page 657. That's a lot of reading. That's 507 pages. Like, that's a lot of pages that I've read in one day. And it's basically midday, so I've still got the rest of the day left. The story is wrapped up, but you can kind of see where it could go on for another story. So I'm just going to read the blurb of the next book. I don't think, well, I know this isn't the book I'm going to read next, but... okay, so this is a series of short stories. So it's quite similar. I've had a couple of series like this recently where there's been like an extra book, and the extra book has been like a collection of short stories from throughout the series. Pop that on there. I got one book closer to finishing off another series, and it is currently the 26th of July. So there's about 7 days-ish left of the month, slightly less. I have 2 books left to read on my monthly TBR, one of which is Book Lovers, and the other one is King of Scars, which is the next book in the Leigh Bardugo Grishaverse situation. So I'm going to read this one. It doesn't feel like the most summary setting to read this book, but I'm going to continue on my little Emily Henry reading. This was the book that's been on my shelf the longest. So I have owned this book for a very, very long time. I picked it up from a charity shop in London. Nora is a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. Her whole life is books. Charlie is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. Classic. Nora has been through enough breakups to know she's the one men date before finding their happily ever after. To prevent another dating dud, Nora's sister persuades her to swap her city desk for a month's holiday in Sunshine Falls. It's a small town straight out of a romance novel, but instead of meeting sexy lumberjacks, handsome doctors, or cute bartenders, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie. She's no heroine, he's no hero, so can they take a page out of an entirely different book? I don't know, can they? So yeah, I'm gonna go and start this book and I will let you know what I think. It is a while later. I've done like a weird little thing with my hair. So like there's like a thing underneath and a thing over the top. I don't know, it gives it a little more volume, but regardless, it is not a hair video, it's a book video. And I have been reading a chunk of this book. So I'm on page 109. Like, I'm reading a lot today, although I do tend to read quite a lot on one of the weekend days. So usually Saturday or Sunday, depending on my weekend setup, is a day I will just binge 1, 2, sometimes 3 books. So she's doing it today. I'm on page 109 of this book. Their relationship, the 2 main characters, Nora and Charlie, I do not fundamentally think they are enemies to lovers, which I think is what it's supposed to be set up as. If it's not, I've got the wrong end of the stick there. But their like weird little rival thing they had at the beginning just didn't feel very believable because there was like nothing to it. They just went for one lunch and he basically said he doesn't like the book that she wants him to edit or publish or something, and that was basically it. And I'm like, that is not grounds for enemies. Like, that is grounds for a slight frustration. She's now gone to this little like quaint little town with her sister who said she just needed a bit of time, and lo and behold, he's there. Can I tell you why he's there? Is that a spoiler? Kind of. It's a spoiler, but you get to the spoiler within the first like 50 pages. But he is there, he knows the area better than she does. And like, yeah, it's cute. They're having like flirty conversations. I feel like this is gonna be just a fun, easy, quick read and like nothing deeper than that. It might get deeper. Like there's still 3/4 of the book left. But from what I'm read, it's just going to be like quick, easy, effortless read. At the moment, I need to show you what's in the garden. Look how many birds are in our garden. I think this morning, the zoom on this camera is an absolute joke. I think this morning there was about 12, maybe 15 birds in the garden, and they're still there, just like pecking. So the bird feeders, there's a couple of birds on the bird feeders that just like push all the seed onto the ground. And like the birds are just cleaning up today. I have spent an unhealthy amount of today watching the birds in the garden. I finished another book. It's still Saturday. I have finished Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I actually really started to enjoy it towards the end. Like I felt like it was quite a slow start because I went into it expecting enemies to lovers and it kind of wasn't. They were just a couple that just had a lot of baggage and just needed to work through it, and I actually thought that was really cute. There was a miscommunication in this book, but not between the love interests. And I don't want to like ruin the plot, but like miscommunication between love interests just annoys me a lot. There was still that in this book, but between two different characters. And for that reason, I weirdly enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't quite know if this is a 5-star, but it's definitely like a 4.5. Did I rate Warstorm? Warstorm was a 5-star. This is like a 4.5. Like it's nearly there. There was just something about it that wasn't quite, like Happy Place for me is still my favourite. I think because it has like a better plot to it outside the romance, but I did really enjoy the romance plot in this book. I did think that Nora and Charlie together were so cute. I love how Nora is dealing with some personal stuff, that's what I'm going to say, and the way that Charlie supports her through it is so freaking cute. Honestly, like ultimate book boyfriend. Like he is a man who is in tune with his emotions. So yeah, I finished this book. I'm probably not going to start another book today because it is now 10:20, but the next book I'm going to read, and I might end up reading it in the morning as I wake up, but it is the start of the King of Scars duology, reading The King of Scars, which is the last book on my July TBR. I am going to give you a proper run through of this in the morning because my camera is running out of battery, but this may be a book that I start reading either last thing tonight or first thing in the morning. I'm going to sneeze. What a start to the video. My hay fever is messing me up today. I moved to London and I never ever had hay fever and it just disappeared, and I was like, maybe I don't have hay fever, maybe I have like a dust allergy or something, because I grew up on a farm, and I was like, maybe the hay fever was nothing to do with plants and everything to do with like, I don't know, dust, because farms are full of dust. And then I moved back to the countryside and the hay fever's back. So I think it's just I lived in a part of London with very few trees, because I lived in a flat that overlooked other flats. So hay fever's back. Anyway, that's not why you are watching this video. Today is Sunday. It is 9:45. We've had a very slow morning today, as in I've only just got up, got dressed, got a cup of tea. In about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 45, we are heading off to my dad's house because the whole side of that family are at my granddad's house, and my granddad lives next door to my dad. So I'm strictly speaking going to my granddad's house. But anyway, the whole side of the family is like there. My dad's an only child, but my granddad is one of 3, and his brother has children, and those children have children. So yeah, there's a whole host of second cousins and second cousins once removed and great aunties and uncles all at my granddad's house. My dad, my brothers are, well, my dad's going next door, but me and my brothers are coming over and we're going to have a cute little afternoon. It does mean I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get done today. So yesterday, which was Saturday, I also read 65 pages of this, which I'll get into in a minute. So I read 945 pages, which is a lot of pages to read in one day. Regardless, that's how many I read. I haven't read anything yet this morning, but I'll probably sit downstairs and read a chunk of this book before we head off. So this is King of Scars. It's the last duology within this universe. So this is part of the Grishaverse. It starts with the Shadow and Bone trilogy. It goes on to the Six of Crows duology. Then we've got the King of Scars duology. And they're all interconnected, like the same characters pop up across the 3 sets of books. So this book follows Nikolai, Zoya, and Nina, which is like such an iconic selection of characters. So far, we have had basically an introduction of like where they're at. Nikolai is suffering from a dark magic that's basically turning him into a monster. Zoya is currently with Nikolai and like, you know, keeping him safe. And then Nina is sort of separate in her own little world. And I'm imagining the 3 of them are gonna collide at some point. I forget how easy these books are to read. There is something about Leigh Bardugo's writing that's just so effortless, and I think it's because they're YA books. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the plot of this book is, but in this world there are people called the Grishas who basically have magical abilities, and primarily they operate as they're like the army or defense people. And in the original trilogy, there is one who can basically wield sunlight, and she is the saviour, and she's gonna save the world from 1, an evil guy, and 2, there's like a storm separating the 2 parts of the world that no one can cross between, and she's supposed to 1, destroy the bad guy, and 2, destroy the storm. So that's what the first trilogy is about. The second duology, which is the Six of Crows duology, follows a load of, well, 6 people who basically want to carry off a heist, and it's so much fun. And then the second book is basically the aftermath of the heist. And then we've got this one. So I don't really know what this is about yet. I don't think the plot in this is quite as well defined, at least from the blurb, as the first 2 sets. But I get the impression it's basically we need to stop Nikolai from spontaneously combusting. I'm gonna go and sit downstairs and read this book with my cup of tea, and when it's time to head off to my dad's, I'll probably put a little pin in the reading and we shall read a bit more when I get back. It's a while later and I've made it to like almost the halfway point of the book. It is page 252 and the book is just over 500 pages long. So halfway through and I've reached the little like new story section. 2 things. 1, you can't read this book without reading the other 2, as in the other 2 collections. There is so much of this book that calls back to either Six of Crows or the original Shadow and Bone trilogy that if you hadn't read them, 1, there are spoilers, and 2, they don't explain it enough. So you just need to have read those previous books. You can get away with reading Six of Crows without reading the Shadow and Bone trilogy. There's a bit of world building that Shadow and Bone does that Six of Crows doesn't, but this book is a direct follow-on from both of those stories. So from Shadow and Bone, you're referencing the Darkling, you're referencing that whole plot between him and the Sun Yielder, like Alina, I think the name was Alina, and the continuation of that plot line. And then in Six of Crows, there is a drug that you can take that basically amplifies your magic abilities, and it has its downsides, and it references that a lot in this book too. Plus the 3 characters come from those 2 collection of books. So yeah, you just have to read the previous 2 series before you can read this. I forgot how much Leigh Bardugo loves a setup, and she loves setting up a story really intensely. And I found it really difficult with Shadow and Bone because I just wasn't prepared for it. So we have reached halfway through this book and we've only really just got to the point of the plot. Like, it's been introducing the characters, it's been introducing or reintroducing some of them. It's been introducing what they're working on and what their like objective is and what their issues are and what they have to overcome. And that's basically been the first 250 pages. And actually, now I'm like prepared for it, it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't say it's necessarily slow, but it's definitely not like I can't explain it. Like there's still a lot happening, but there's also not much happening. But yeah, I read just shy of 200 pages this morning, sat outside in the garden. It is currently 11:22, so we're gonna round up our stuff, head off to Dad's house, and then I probably won't read anything more until this evening. It is Monday. I'm getting ready to head off into the office, and then we're actually staying over in London overnight because I'm in London late tonight for a client drinks. And then we started looking at hotels like out where the client drinks are, and the cost of the hotel was very much, you know, the cost to like come back to where we live and then come back into London. So we are staying in town tonight, which is quite nice. So I'm currently getting ready and packing my makeup bag as I get ready. So every time I use something, I'm just throwing it in my makeup bag. Yesterday was actually really fun. I loved staying with my family, and then I came home and I actually finished the book. I actually had a lot of fun. Towards the end of it, as in like basically the whole first half of it is story set up, and then the second half of it, you basically benefit from all the story set up in the first half. And I had a really, really good time. I'd give it 4.5 stars, but what I ranked it in Goodreads, I can't remember. I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters, I loved the pacing, I loved the world. I loved the story that is set up for the second book. It just felt like quite a long time to get there, but I think that's very much the author's writing style, which meant yesterday I read a lot of pages for the second day in a row. I read 446 pages because the book is 511 pages long, and I'd only read 66 pages the day before, so quite a few pages. And today I realised that our workbook club is Wednesday and I still haven't read the book. So we are starting the workbook club book, which is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I know there's some controversy around the author because of the way she has profiteered off domestic violence, and basically how she created like a colour book, right, of scenes that no one wants to colour. So I know that there's been some issues around the way that she has marketed herself, but yeah, it's the book club book, so what do you want me to do? It's been a little while. It's now actually Tuesday evening. I forgot to take my camera into London. Also, the hotel room we're staying in, beautiful, practical, great, did the job. Absolutely tiny. Yeah, I actually didn't film anything. I am now home, so I'm gonna do a little summary of the last 2 days. So I finished Verity by Colleen Hoover. I read the first 250 pages exactly yesterday, and then I read the last 64 pages today. I did realise about 50 pages in, I have already read this book. I've also got a spot coming out. There you go. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I realised about 50 pages into the book, I had already read it and I completely forgotten. But it was book club and I wanted to like reread it so that I had all the fresh perspective and knowledge and information when we discussed it tomorrow. But yeah, I finished the book, I read the whole thing. I kind of forgot how unsevere the ending is, as in like the big twist that happens at the end. I kind of forgot how little impact on the plot that twist actually has. It's such a weird ending. If you've read this book, it's weird. It's just an odd way to finish the story. I just don't quite get it. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I didn't enjoy it as much the second time. I think when I read it the first time, I gave it 4.5 stars. I would say this time it was like a 4, potentially even 3.5. I feel like when I read it back the second time, I could see weird plot things. And then to continue on from Warstorm, which I read on Saturday, I'm now reading the very last book in the series, which is Broken Throne. And this is a collection of short stories. They're weird short stories. I am currently halfway through the second one. So I'm currently on page 119. It seems to be following characters who interact with characters that you know, but the character you're following themselves is a new person. At least it has been for the last 2. And you're watching them live through something that's already happened in the plot, but you weren't there to witness it in the original story. Could sound quite interesting, except I am reading these stories going, why are you telling this? What is this achieving? Why do I care? It's currently only 8:30, but I'm absolutely exhausted. So I do think I might just climb into bed and watch some videos on my phone and then go to bed because I'm absolutely exhausted. Last night we had some client drinks, and one, they were quite boozy, and then two, we were out until midnight. We then got back to the hotel room at like midnight, so that wasn't too bad. But I don't sleep very well when I drink, so I didn't sleep very well and I woke up shattered. And yeah, I'm just very, very tired. And I will see you guys in the morning / at some point tomorrow. Believe it or not, it is 7:15. This morning was supposed to be quite cold, and then it ended up being really hot, and so therefore I wore inappropriate clothing, i.e. leather trousers, and I got really, really hot. So I went and showered. So anyway, it's been another day of reading. I actually didn't read anything more after I spoke to you last night. I just ended up watching YouTube in bed and then went to sleep. 183 pages yesterday, which I think is the lowest of the week, but I was very, very tired, so I'm not that surprised. And then today I have been reading this book still. So this is Broken Throne by Victoria Aveyard, and I've made it to page 399. We ended up catching the slow train into work today. So I live on a route that has both really quick trains and significantly slower trains. And we caught the slow train because the quick train was cancelled and then the one after it was late. So I was sat on the train for quite some time, and therefore I read, I think, 180 pages this morning just on the way into work. Yeah, I'm now on the very last story. So the first story in this book is basically a series of short stories following different characters set from the original, is it 4 books? Yeah, the original 4 books, during the original 4 books, and the last one is after. And in the first one, you're following a member of the royal family from like a while ago. And so I was like, I don't know who this person is. I don't care about this person. Why am I reading about this person? I also didn't realise it was set before the original series, so I just didn't know what was happening. Bored. I then read the second story and hadn't quite connected who the character was. I didn't quite realise that it's the main female character's sibling. Like, I just didn't get that, and I don't know why. I obviously got it when they started interacting, and I was like, oh, I see. I understand. Up until that point, I didn't realise I was supposed to care about them, so I was quite bored. And then the next couple of stories are following fairly major characters from the original series, so therefore it was fine. Like, I knew who those people were, and therefore I was slightly more invested. And now we're following the primary character from the main books, Mare, in her like post-trilogy or post-quartet journey. So I feel it's like slowly but surely I'm caring more about the stories. I always feel this way about a series of short stories written after the plot's finished, that you read after you've finished the original series because you have to, because it has a trillion spoilers in it. I felt this way about the short stories that happened after Scythe, and I always think the same thing. Why? Like, what is this really adding to the story? Like, what is it really doing? And maybe that's a me thing, I don't know. I just feel a little bit like, was this worth it? Probably not. It's pretty dark everywhere right now because it's raining like I've never seen rain before. Like, no, that's a complete lie. It's just raining. It's been raining all day. So it's now really, really dark, despite the fact it is 3:30 on a Friday afternoon in August. Anyway, it's now Friday. I don't think I actually caught up with you guys at all yesterday. Actually quite a fun day. We ended up having drinks quite late in the office. I did read some more of my book. So I have been reading The Awakening, which is the first book in the Zodiac Academy series. Reading it on my Kindle because it's on Kindle Unlimited. And I'm currently on page 263. So I read 185 pages yesterday of this book. It's fun, it's easy, it's like quirky and easy to read, and I'm enjoying the story. It does feel very young, not necessarily in terms of the plot or the topic, because there is a bit of spice in it, so it actually doesn't feel like young because of that, but it feels young based on the way it's written. Like, I can't explain it, it just feels quite YA in its like writing style and its like plot style, but then it doesn't in some of the topics it deals with. So I can't really quite work out what age range this is supposed to be designed for, but it is making it just like a really quick, easy read. I'm currently 62% of the way through this book. I actually haven't read anything this morning because I woke up late because basically we got home late. It is raining outside currently, as I've already said. I don't know what's going on with my hair. Probably gonna go sit in Alex's office and read some of my book and basically switch off before the weekend. And then I will either come back later this evening or first thing tomorrow and round the whole week up and let you know everything that I have read. It's time to wrap up this video, to close off this chapter, and to give you a little summary of my reading week. I actually read nothing on Friday. Zilch. 0 pages, which does happen occasionally. It doesn't happen very often, but to round off the week, I read on Saturday 945 pages, on Sunday 446 pages, on Monday 250 pages, on Tuesday 183 pages, on Wednesday 427 pages, on Thursday 185 pages, on Friday 0 pages, which meant over the week I read 2,436 pages, which, to be fair, I probably finish on average between 4 and 5 books a week, so that kind of does track. I started off by reading Warstorm by Victoria Aveyard, which is the last book in the original Red Queen series, although there is like a 4.5. I loved this book. It felt like the perfect wrap up of a series, I think, where the series should end. I then read Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which is on my TBR. I actually really enjoyed this book, but not as much as some of the other Emily Henry books. I then went back to my fantasy roots and I read King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, which is the first book in this duology, but it exists within a wider universe. I actually can't stop thinking about this book, and I'm so excited to read Rule of Wolves, which is actually above you, which is why I'm looking up, and I'm really excited to read that book. I think it's going to be fabulous. I then accidentally reread Verity. Didn't realise I'd already read that book, but it was our book club book at work. The ending, like, why does the ending not have more impact than the ending has? That's all I'm going to say. I just feel like they kind of discovered it at the end and they were like, okay. After Verity, I then read Broken Throne, which is the series of short stories set around the original Red Queen Quartet. I don't know. This was fine. The first story I was bored. The second story, it took me a long time to realise why I was there. And then the third, fourth and fifth story, they were fine. I just don't really know what this added. I finished off the week by starting Zodiac Academy, which, well, actually The Awakening, which is the first book in the Zodiac Academy. Like, I can see why it's hated, but I also just had a really fun time reading it. The characters in that book are dodgy. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of really horrible people in that book. And a lot of questionable things that happen in that book. But I just had a fun time reading it, so I gave it 4 stars on vibes alone. But the writing and the plot and some of the wider stuff probably should be more like a 3-star, but I was having a good time, so I gave it a 4-star. That's a little roundup of my reading week. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, click subscribe because I film more reading vlogs, and the next one I'm going to be filming is finishing off a series I'm in the middle of. That will be next week's reading vlog, so if you want to watch that, click subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!